Well, since we're talking back catalog, let's get to the current piece of what is now back catalog, Metal Rains from the Gutter. Incredible, incredible show. I think I've listened to it 300 times in the last month since I got it. It is, I mean, it's just so, if nothing else, as a Savatage fan that has seen you guys numerous times back in the day in big buildings and in clubs, you guys captured the energy. That's what stands out on this record. For you, when you first heard these mixes, what did you think? Did it take you right back to 1990, or were you like, "Wow, we had it going there," or what did you feel?
Yeah, I mean, the band was on fire and we actually captured it. And, I didn't even realize we recorded it, to be honest with you.
Okay,
It was done as a live radio broadcast, but at that time we were using the record plant studio in New York City and they had a mobile truck. We recorded that in LA and there was a record plant in LA and they had a mobile recording truck. So
okay,
we actually used the mobile recording truck to mix the live radio broadcast and they just ran tape. And so we sat on the tape and we didn't really think anything of it and then pulled it out and said, hey, what's it, because tape, a lot of times it demagnetizes and
hmm
we wanted to see what was on it. And the parts were there. And so it was like, damn, that sounds pretty good.
right,
So we have a studio in Tampa, the Trans-Siberian does, and so we let the engineers have a go at it and see if we could salvage what was on the tape. And they did a great job of capturing the moment. There's some magical moments in that record. We didn't do any overdubs. We left it as is. You'll hear mistakes on it. But that's that true essence of a raw rock and roll band back in the day before in-ear monitors, before metronomes, before all the stuff everybody takes advantage of today to make their performances better. We didn't have any of that. So it was just like go.
right.
And that was it.
When you listen back to it, what stands out to you? I mean, is there a moment that you're listening to and you're like, "Oh my God, I remember exactly where I was on stage when this happened," or is there a song where you're like, "Man, that's the best we ever played it."
I think what really stands out is Chris Oliva's playing and
Hmm.
his mastery of the fretboard at such a young age. I think we were like 27, I think, at the time. So we were young kids, and to be that good, that young, was well, the whole band in general, we were pretty. I think John was the oldest guy. I think he was 30.
Okay.
We were just a bunch of kids trying to, keep our record deal alive. And back then, it was the record label's option. If you didn't sell records, you didn't get another one. And so we were just out there fighting it out and trying to sell albums. And we put together a set that was kind of a little bit of everything we had at the time. And it was a time also where, the band was kind of evolving. That, the Gutter Ballet is the first time we started using piano and
Right.
in our songs. And so if you listen to John introduce Gutter, he's like, we're going to try something different.
Right.
Because
Right.
it was different. We never had piano in any of our songs on the prior tours. So it's a band evolving that you're listening to and a band that had been out on the road for a long time. And so we were pretty tight and you can hear it in that performance.
Right on. Johnny, obviously most fans, and I'm just telling you know this, but most fans consider that exact moment maybe the peak of Savatage. Gutter Ballet, I think most people it's either there or Hall of Mountain King. Those are the two definitive moments that I think most fans put on Savatage. For you, when you hear a guy like me or anybody call it peak Savatage, is that accurate to you, or do you feel like you guys actually progressed and got better past then, or where do you rate it?
I mean, that version of the band, yeah, that was the peak of that version of the band because that was the band where you had, the Oliva brothers, myself, and Wackles, and then Caffrey involved. And then, with the Streets record, it was a different band. It was
Mhm.
just, it was us, the Oliva brothers, myself, and Doc, and then we brought on another keyboard player.
Right.
So that version of that band, yeah, that was the peak of that version of the band for sure. And
Right
like I
on.
said, we had been beating the street, man, so we knew those tunes like the back of our hand. It just came naturally.
Right. Do you miss that day when, and what I mean specifically is not the money or the fame or any of that, but do you miss the way bands operated? You guys were bands were like a little gang. You guys all traveled around together as like a gang, and now it's, well, this guy lives in Georgia and this guy lives in the UK, and we're going to send MP3s, and it's just different now. Do you like it better now, or do you miss the glory days of when a band was truly a family, more or less?
Well, back then we didn't really make any money, you know.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
True.
we were making 35 bucks a day and we were taking tour support from Atlantic to stay out on the road.
Right.
So my sound man was making money, my light man was making money, but yeah, but we were definitely a band of brothers. We all lived in the same community, except for Chris at the time. He was from Jersey, but yeah, it was a band of brothers, man. We kind of looked out for each other, and you know, we it was different, way different than the way things are now. The money's better now, but the
Mhm.
camaraderie and the way things are done now is a lot different than back then. I mean, we had not, none of the fancy things, no in-ear monitors, nothing like that. It was wedges, side fills, go. If you
Right.
couldn't hear, you couldn't hear for an hour and a half, and that was it. You got through it, and it made you a better player because you struggled. A lot of it
Hmm.
was struggling back then.
Sure. And a lot of it too was stage chemistry, and you guys clearly had that throughout the original run of Savatage.
Hmm.
How much of that, and like I said, I saw the band several times, and it really just it always just felt so natural, and like it was just kind of happening off the cuff. You know what I mean? It didn't feel like you guys had rehearsed the whole. I mean, it sounded great, but it didn't feel like, oh, I'm going to use Kiss as an example, not to pick on him, but just when Paul Stanley starts talking about, cold gin, you know what's coming. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
a rehearsed thing. It never felt like that for you guys. Was that the way it was? Were you guys just shooting from the hip, or was it rehearsed and you were just good at making it feel?
Oh, I mean, we rehearsed before a tour,
Mhm.
but you basically rehearsed every night when you played, and there was nothing really pre-planned other than the songs. The biggest challenge doing that recording was having John not drop the F-bomb because it
Right.
was a live radio broadcast. And if you hear on Mentally Yours, he says loses his flipping mind. Well, that's not what he used to say. And there
Or
was,
said after.
yeah, there was a lot of his banter was cut out just due to the F-bomb being dropped. But we
Sure.
did have a 7-second delay
Nice.
on the recording truck. So in case it slipped through, we could squash it so we didn't get fined by the FCC.